Welcome to the language of the prophets, Aliyah Yomi. This is the first Aliyah of Torah portion Vayeitsei. The first Aliyah consists of the verses from Pareshah, Genesis chapter 28, verses 10 through 22. Verse Yod, which is 10. Vayeitsei Yaakov mi Pareshah. So this usually would be Pareshah, but we're dealing with something that's in pausal form here. Pause is where you have a lengthening of the vowel under the tone syllable to a longer vowel. So this is to a full comets. And this happens because this word has it's just like we have tone syllables, we also have tone words in a verse. So this is the tone word, so to speak. Same thing is happening with the luk here underneath the resh. So Yaitsei, this is from Yatsa, to go out. And Yaitsei will mean he will go out or he's going out. But by now you should be familiar with, we have our Vav conversive here, swapping the time for us. So it means, and Yaakov, or then Yaakov went out. Mi Pareshah. Mi, this is of course our mean, you should remember. Mem, noon, meaning from. And you can either write it as mean, like this, with a makef connected to the next word, although sometimes the makef is not present, or you can prefix it to the next word, kind of like a contraction in English, right? Like we might say, you could say cannot, or you can just say can't, and that not gets shortened a little bit like that. So you can kind of think of this something like a inverse Hebrew contraction. So the noon goes inside the next letter. It really makes the letter double. So that's why there's a strong dagesh showing that there were two baits there originally. Mi-be'er, although now we just pronounce mi-be'el. Mi-be'el, shava, from Be'er-sheva. That's the location. Vayelech Haran, and he went towards Haran. Here's a hey locative, so this is direction towards. Now Rashi comments on this. He says, there's not really a necessity to tell us anything other than he went towards Haran. He set out for Haran. So why does the Torah tell us also that Vayeitsei Yaakov mi Pareshah, that he left Pareshah? Then Rashi answers his own question. He says, this is to teach that when a tzaddik departs from a location, those who live there take note. Like it's a sad thing when a tzaddik leaves. Okay. Verse Yod Aleph. Vayifga ba'makom Vayelam Sham Kiva Hashemesh Veikach Yavnehi Hamakom Vayasem Mira'ashotav. Okay, so Paga Bamakom. Okay, and this is an interesting form here. The paga, the binyan, or the verbal stem, is what we would call, well, even though there's there's a dagesh there, it's actually, it tricked me for a second. I was thinking it's PL, but then I realized there's a schwa here, a silent schwa. And so since Gimel is a begad kefat letter, remember the begad kefat letters? Begad kefat, Beit Gimel Dalet, begad kefat. Kaf, Pei, Tav. These are the letters that when there's no vowel sound in front of them, they take a weak dagesh, or a dagesh lene. And so this is not indicating a doubled letter here for the PL form, but it's just call. And it means like to reach a location, right? Like to make it to a place, something like this. You can also meet someone. You can go out and meet someone. So Yifka would mean he will meet, but we have our vav conversive. Vayifka b'makom. So in this case, I've told you we need to be flexible with vav. Yeah, it's not let me turn the volume on this, sorry. We shouldn't assume that it's always going to be and or but. In this case, I think when makes more sense. So when he reached Bamakom, literally in the place, Vayalen. So this is from the verb loon. It's a hollow verb, so it's kind of hard to see. And then we also see it as lean. Oftentimes a vav and yod are swappable, not just willy-nilly, but you'll see hollow verbs taking on a yod instead of the vav in certain places. So lean or loon, it's to spend the night someplace. So he spent the night sham there. Kiva hashemesh vayikach, for the sun had arrived. Right, the idea is it's sunset. Sun's about to go down. Vayikach, this is from lakach, the lamed is inside the kuf there. We have another vav conversive. By the way, these vav conversives that you see all over the place, these are so regular in biblical Hebrew that it's very interesting if you ever study Koine Greek and you read the apostolic writings. So many sentences will, before the verb will have kai, kappa, alpha, iota, which means and, right? I.e., it's the vav. It's the vav. And so you'll see this style, this Hebrew writing style permeates into the Greek. It's quite interesting to see. So anyway, then he took me'avnei hamakom. So here we have a nice little construct chain. Avnei hamakom. So let me write. Okay. So Evan means a stone. Avanim means stone. So this was in the construct form. Avnei hamakom. And of course we have a ha. Right? Makom means place. Ha means the place. So since the last word is definite with a ha, the entire phrase must be translated with the. So from the stones of the place. Sometimes when you have from something, it can mean some of, or so it's interesting that this usually is translated to be just a stone from the place, but I can't remember. One of the sages seems to think that it's very literally from stones of the place, so there's some stones, so it's more than one. Anyway, I don't think that's correct, although I could see grammatically why the sage says that. The Rashbam points out that the reason he stops here is because he didn't have enough time to make it to the bigger city before dark, and he calls out something from Tractate Pesachim, which teaches us on page 2a that one should always enter and depart in the daylight. So that's okay, not bad. All right. Vayasim, and he set or placed, again, another vav consecutive there, vav conversive. I'm not going to mark all of these because I think you guys should be used to it by now. And he said it, Meira Ashotav. This is kind of an interesting word here. Okay, looks like my animation didn't quite work, but this word means something like a head support, or what is at the head, right? So you might have seen Rosh and think, what? Rosh? Heads? At heads? What's going on here? And sometimes you have this happen in Hebrew where the plural of a word can become kind of an abstract concept related to that word. It's not always this way, but you can kind of see how they got to this meaning, right? Like his head space, something like that. And the vav at the end, this is the pronominal suffix meaning his. Vayishkav b'makom hahu. So shachav is to lay down. The yod makes it into imperfect, which is like a future. But then we got our vav conversive. So it's, and he laid down b'makom, in the place, hahu, that one, literally in that place. Right? So you see you have the footprint here from ha. That's how we know to say in the place, that one. Okay? Now, it's interesting, there are some other opinions. Abarbanel thinks that actually it would have been better to keep going because he's the idea, I think, is that he's fleeing from his brother, right? From Esau. And so if you're fleeing for your life, then okay, go ahead and travel at night, right? But although Abarbanel makes the point that it's because it's summertime, and even in the fall, one does not stop traveling when the sun has arrived, but only when it's totally dark. Remember, it's just sunset, right? So Abarbanos thinks that this was actually an indication that he was supposed to stop there, that it's basically providence having him stop there. Yod Beit, Vayachalom b'hinei sulam mutzav arza v'rosho magi'ah hashamayma. Very interesting here. So, and he dreamt, and behold, a sulam. So what is a sulam? This is usually translated as a ladder, like Jacob's ladder, but really, I think that translation presumes a bit too much, trying to inject modern cultural objects. So sulam, this only occurs one time in the Bible, all right? This is a hapak slegomemnon. And according to Halot, it's something like a stepped ramp, a flight of steps, maybe like a ziggurat. Ziggurat, if you've ever seen any of those, these drawings from the ancient Near Eastern cultures. Mutzav, this is from the verb natzav. The nun has assimilated into the tzadi there, right? So natzav, you should know, it's to take one stand, to stand, right? And as I pointed out before, in the Mechilta, we are taught that whenever you see natzav in Scripture, it's an indication of the presence of Ruach HaKodesh, right? So it's interesting. So of course, in this case, it really makes sense. This is a pu'al form, so it's passive. So the sulam, the stepped ramp or the flight of steps, were stationed. Arza. This is very interesting. For some reason, the Eretz has a hey locative here, so it's like going towards the ground. So I kind of get the idea that the thing was vibrating or moving or something. The rosho, and its head, its top, magia. This is from the verb naga. The nun is there in the gimel. Okay, this means touching. Was touching hashamayma. Again, not the heavens. That would be hashamayim, but hashamayma, towards the heavens. Another hey locative. So we got one here. We got one here. So I don't know. Maybe it's like a ziggurat. Like the ziggurat itself is moving up and down, or something like this is being hinted at by the text. It's quite interesting. Vehine, and behold, look, malachei Elohim olim v'yodeim bo. Okay, so another construct chain here. Malachei Elohim. Okay, so this is from malachim, of course, which is angels or messengers. This word usually translates into Septuagint as angelos, right, or angeloi, right? So angels. And since it's construct, here is Elohim is God. And even though there's not Ha Elohim, we understand this when you talk about the God, there's one true God, right? So this means literally angels of God, right? Although it is plausible if anybody wants to chase down this interpretation. It could be talking about like messengers of divine powers or something like that, right? So it could be like messengers from the Bnei Elohim, even something like this. But I think it's pretty clear, at least our tradition nails this down as being from God. Olim, so this is from the verb Allah, the hey at the end, ayin lamed hey, to go up. So this is an active participle. They were going up, and they were going down, bo, on it. Rashi points out that these were the malachim, the messengers, the angels, who had been with Yaakov in the land. They were not allowed to go outside, like that was the domain, they were the principalities of that area, so to speak, right? And the ones that were olim, shemaima, that were ascending towards the heavens, towards the sky, but these were the malachim who work outside of the land, and they descended to accompany him further. So it's kind of interesting, right? So the ones from the land were going up, and the ones who were to accompany him were coming down, right? Like task was something else. Okay, verse Yod Gimel, 13. Vehine Adonai nitzav alive. Then, behold, Adonai nitzav. This is, notice, the same verbal root as over here, as mutzav, where the nun was missing, right? So then Adonai was stationed, or was standing alive over him. Yomi, and he said, Ani Adonai Elohei Avraham Avicha, ve'Elohei Yitzchak, And he said, I am Adonai, construct, the God of Abraham. Which Abraham? Your father. And the God of Yitzchak. It's interesting that he calls Abraham, while speaking to the grandson Yaakov, he calls him Av, father, Avicha, your father. So of course this is where we get a more generic usage of the word Av or Ab. It's to mean ancestor, right? I am the God of your ancestor Abraham. This is also appropriate translation. Haaretz asher ata shochev aleha lecha et nena uleza'echa. The land, literally the land which you are laying upon it, lecha, it is yours, it's to you. So pronominal suffix there, cha, plus lamed, you should get that. Et nena, I will give it. We have kind of an energetic form here. This is from the verb natan. It's a bit harder to see. Natan. Ulizaracha, and to your zera, your offspring, your seed. Let me change colors here. Verse Yodalet, which is 14. V'haya za'acha ka'afa ha'aretz ufaratzta yama v'kedema v'tzafona v'negba. And it shall be your seed, and your seed shall be, or shall become. Haya can mean to be or to become. So probably become. And your offspring will become ka'afa. So this is like dust, afa. And the reason there's the patach here, sorry I drew over it, but wait, let me erase that so you can still see it. The reason it's there is because you're not allowed to have two schwas in a row in the beginning of the word, right? And so what happens is we have a composite schwa. That's this chataf patach. That's this guy right here, right? This is a composite schwa, so it's a kind of a schwa. And kaf, as an inseparable preposition, it likes to take a schwa underneath it, right? When it attaches to the word. Okay? But this is not allowed to start the word with two schwas. So usually this would lengthen to a chirik. But in the instance of a composite schwa, it takes whatever the little sound associated with that composite schwa is. So in this case, the little sound is patach. See it there? So then it mimics that sound. Patach here. That's why. There's no the happening here. If it was the, we'd have a comet. It would have had to have lengthened because the ayin could not take the strong dagesh. Okay? So like, and this is actually another indication why you couldn't have the definite article there. It's because we actually have a construct chain. Afar ha'aretz. So what does afar ha'aretz mean? That means the dust of the land, right? Since the last word has the, we have to carry the over here. So like the dust of the land. Ufaratzta, and you will break out, or you will expand out. Yama. So here it's interesting, we have a hey locative at the end of yam. Yam is sea, so towards the sea, right? It's also interesting, this might be even a remez hint about what's going to happen coming out of Mitzrayim, that Hashem would parat, that he'd cause to break out the yam, maybe. Vakedema, and towards the east, like eastwards. Tzafona, and northwards. Vanegba, and southwards. V'nivrachu v'cha kol bishpechot ha'adama uvezarecha. And then the Pareshat understanding of this is default from Barach, Barach, to bless. And they shall be blessed, or they shall bless themselves. Who? Here's the subject. Kol mishpechot ha'adama. And you do have a construct chain in there. The construct chain is Kol Kol mishpechot ha'adama. Kol mishpechot ha'adama. Sorry, it's kind of sloppy looking with my left hand, but so all of the families of the earth, or the ground, literally, right? So since the last word is the, these two must also have to be the. All of the families of the earth. They shall bless themselves in you, or by means of you, and by means of your offspring, or they shall be blessed by you. Now, it's interesting. There is a dissenting opinion here. I forgot to mention something. Okay, I'll come back to that in a second. There's a dissenting opinion here. The Nivrechu, the Rashbam says that actually when you have the Nifal form of Barach this way, without, he says it actually means it's an expression of engrafting, which is interesting. In other words, the families of the earth will be intermingled with your family. Look at that, intermingled. Oh, yeah, you're right over it. For this is the form without the dagesh. And I've already explained this in Pareshat Lech Lecha, so apparently he just talks about it more over there. So it's kind of interesting that he's interpreting this prophecy to be much in a similar manner to how we interpret it, right? What does it mean for people to be blessed because of you, right, if you're Israel? The meaning, according to the Rashbam, and I think this is Ruach HaKodesh who showed him this, is that the families of the earth who wish to be righteous will graft in. They will be engrafted. It's the expression of engrafting. They'll be grafted in with us, with Israel. And that is wherein lies their blessing.